Hi, I'm James Wedding, a Senior Technical Specialist with Autodesk. Over the last few videos, you've seen our team evaluate existing conditions and then prepare an initial layout for our project subdivision. This time, we're going to look at taking AutoCAD planimetrics in the other direction, using line work showing a temporary parking lot near our sales office and displaying it inside of InfraWorks 360. Then we'll look at some basic ground surface manipulation in InfraWorks and some of the tools available for adding life to an InfraWorks scene, trees, landscaping, that sort of thing. This one will be pretty short, so don't doze off. First, I'm in AutoCAD Civil 3D. I've used standard AutoCAD commands to draw in a temporary driveway from the back of the proposed road and marked out the parking lot on the setback area using Autodesk vehicle tracking. It's a bit oversized, but I'll live with it. I do want to make sure I have one accessible space available, so I converted a space using the AVT tools, and then I'm going to sketch in a temporary sidewalk from the parking area to the pad where we'll be putting in the model home that'll act as our sales office. This is all pretty standard CAD work, so I've sped it up pretty considerably. With planimetrics done, I now want to take this over to InfraWorks for communication with the home builder. Typically, when I want to be able to control the display and style of CAD information, I want it as separate files in InfraWorks 360, as separate data imports. So to do that, I use the map DWG to SDF command. This creates a spatial data file, the SDF, that I can then drag and drop into InfraWorks 360. I created one for the paving areas, so the parking lot, the driveway, the sidewalk, and my home builder's pad. And then I'll create another one for the parking striping, since I want to be able to manage the stacking, display order, and style associated with that parking striping. Once I have those SDF files created, I'm done with AutoCAD Civil 3D for the time being, so let's jump into InfraWorks 360. In InfraWorks 360, you can see I've already brought in the final lot layout from my survey group. And now I need to bring in that temporary paving and striping before I begin playing with various site elements. To bring in the paving areas, I simply drag and drop that SDF file that I created into InfraWorks 360. Tag it as a coverage and then assign a material style. Click Close and Refresh, and I've got those CAD pieces in my InfraWorks model. Now, before I bring in the striping, I'm going to modify the individual pieces a little bit to make them work a little better aesthetically. This is why I needed separate closed polylines in Civil 3D. Drag and drop from the style palette to change the materials, and then we'll bring in the striping. To make the line work display differently from closed polylines, but line work, we do need to use one little trick inside of InfraWorks 360, and that's a buffer value. When I bring in the striping SDF file, I'll assign it like a coverage, just like before, and this time though, I pick a color for the material style. I'm just going to use white for simplicity. Now, before I close and refresh, I have to tell InfraWorks to paint a buffer around my line work. Jump to the table, assign a 0.25 foot buffer, then close and refresh so my line work displays properly. With InfraWorks 360, there are a few ways to insert and work with 3D models. They can be city furniture, such as predefined buildings, benches, cars, hydrants, what have you. They can be points of interest, useful when you want to assign a hyperlink later to something like the Space Needle in Seattle. You can also insert lines of trees and areas of trees, but these trees can actually be any 3D model. For example, if you're creating a crowd scene, you can draw an area of trees and put in people instead of dogwoods. Experiment and figure out the best workflow for you. I inserted a house using the city furniture command, and then I wanted to make sure I had a flat pad. So I selected the pad, right-clicked, and selected Shape Terrain. This lets me treat that entire shape as a slab and move it up and down uniformly. I also checked the scale of the house by using some of the measuring tools. Finally, I put the house in place, lining it up with that front sidewalk using the gizmo, and assigned grass material to the pad to hide it in the overall model. Now, at this point, it's simply more of the same to adjust the parking lot. Use the various tools to add life to your model. I added in some buffer trees along the outside of the property, landscaping along the approach path, cars in the parking lot and a tree in the backyard. And at the end of it, I went in and swapped out the house because I didn't think I really liked the first one I used. All told, I spent maybe 5 minutes playing with various site elements, and bringing it all together really helps communicate the design intent to my stakeholders, and that's what InfraWorks 360 is really all about. I told you this was a quick one. Next time, we'll look at creating some polished exhibits by adding a watermark to our design, outputting both still and animated views of our project, and publishing to the web for further sharing. See you then.